Almost 150 days ago, we launched the college football season. The transfer portal, conference realignment, Coach Prime, and many other stories led the way. But when it's all said and done, here we sit. Two teams, an independent and the third place Big Ten team, just like we all thought, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the Ohio State Buckeyes. And we're going to break it all down for you right here on the Belly Up Sports College Football Championship Super Show.
Two teams remain in the college football playoffs. Both teams are looking to write their names in the history books in this first edition of the 12-team playoff. Who will it be? Notre Dame or Ohio State? Find out now on the Belly Up Sports College Football Super Show. And here's your host, Vince Stover.
Welcome into the Belly Up Sports College Football Championship Super Show, and we have a great show lined up for you with some of the media personalities from Belly Up Sports. And at this time, I want to welcome in two gentlemen who are going to help me today break down and get you ready for the College Football Championship. First up is the host of the Corner Booth podcast, oftentimes mistaken as the Notre Dame Leprechaun, but he is not. It's the one and only Jared Klim. Welcome in, Jared. How are you?
Hey, Vince. What's going on, man?
What's happening? And our second guest, listen, you know a lot of people, right? You know Cher, Madonna, Drake, but let me introduce you to Belly Up Sports' own one-name wonder. He's the host of the Tailgate on the Quad podcast, Kev. What's going on, Kev?
Nothing. How are you doing? I'd be feeling better if I was not compared to Drake with all that he's got going on, but Cher and Madonna's pretty cool.
Right. Yeah. You can't just do all cool people. It has to be mixed in a little bit there.
Yeah,
but guys, I'm excited about this program. We get a chance to talk about the College Football Championship because, well, let's face it, even though it doesn't seem like all that long ago that we started this season, it's been a little while and a lot has happened throughout this process. And so let's just jump right into it. We're breaking this show down into 4 quarters, and we're going to start off by looking just at the college football playoffs because, in case people forgot, there was a change this year. We added 12 teams into the playoffs, so we had this whole bracket set up, and let's start with that playoff format. What did you guys think about year one of the playoff championship brackets, the way that we put it out in the playoffs? Jared?
I was skeptical for a lot of it. I wasn't the biggest fan. I thought maybe 6 or 8 would have been a perfect combination for it. But honestly, I was entertained by it. I did like the fact that it was December 20th and I had games that mattered for bowl games. And it was kind of a nice change. Getting ready for those first couple games, obviously with, I think we opened with this Notre Dame Fighting Irish against Indiana. Indiana was one of those teams that we weren't even sure deserved to be in. And Notre Dame kind of ushered that one even further into the media spotlight. But it was kind of nice seeing, I guess it was a pleasant surprise. Now, the teams were let in. That might be a whole different story, but at least the whole structure itself, I actually enjoyed it. Surprised me. I didn't think I was going to, but I did like it.
Kev?
I agree with Jared that 6 or 8 would have been the logical choice. And I still think 6 or 8 is the logical choice. Not as much 6 anymore. Everyone's pointing out, oh, well, it's 7 versus 8, so we needed expansion. Yes, we probably did need expansion, but with 12 teams, that's unnecessary. I mean, if you look at the first round, Clemson and Texas, 2 scores. Ohio State dominated Tennessee. Penn State dominated SMU. Indiana faked keeping it close against Notre Dame. It was not that close of a game. 12 teams is way too many. And I think additionally, it did show us we need to reseed after round 1. Hey, Oregon, you just won the Big Ten, a Power 5 conference. Congrats. Your reward is in your first game, you get to play Ohio State, who just dominated Tennessee. It should have been reseeded. It might have been reseeded the same way, but I think keeping that option in the committee's back pocket will allow to make conference championships matter a little bit more than they were in this first playoffs.
Yeah, Jared, your thoughts on that seeding idea, because I know they're talking about it already, but that's the first thing I saw and noticed with those brackets was I thought this seeding seems really weird the way that it ends up.
I completely agree. I did not even think about it from that perspective. Now I'm kind of like, I might ride shotgun with Kevin on this. This is perfect. My biggest complaint, besides obviously the teams that got in that had no business even walking into that playoff, was how Oregon, who is one of the most exciting teams we watched all year, honestly, one of the most entertaining, only team to finish undefeated, and I guess in the FBS level. Yeah, no, they walked in and got smacked, and it was not even like they had a chance to catch their breath. I think they scored, 14 unanswered right on each bookends of halftime. But besides that, they looked like they weren't even ready for the game. And to be honest, a lot of these college teams, when they play a season, they, do a tune-up game against some FCS team or a bottom end of a other team's conference kind of playing game. But Oregon hadn't played in 5 weeks, and they had to play a Ohio State team that was ready to rock and roll after just smacking Tennessee around for a quarter, breaking Nico's helmet twice, or maybe once, twice. Either way, Jack Sawyer and that defense looked unstoppable, and they have all the momentum, and Oregon was just basically a damsel on the tracks. They were done.
Yeah, I think that bye week might not be looked as positively upon coming in the next season. And you get this teams like Ohio State, didn't win the conference, didn't have to worry about losing the conference championship game. They knew they were locked in. Tennessee was the same way. And then you still get some time off before the game. So it's not like it's an immediate turnaround. And so you get a little bit of rest, but Oregon, you're right, a lot of time off. And yeah, a tough way to go, especially their first game of the playoff, no doubt. Let's talk about those 12 teams, though, because, Jared, you've mentioned it a couple times now that you thought there were some teams that did not deserve to be in those 12. So the question is who, and then who would have you have replaced them with?
I only really have two. I had three at the beginning of this. I can't, as much as they looked like crap, I cannot in good faith say Tennessee didn't deserve. They were one loss SEC team. They played well enough to play. The only two teams that I really had a bone to pick were Tom Signetti and Indiana, who played one hard game the entire year and got roped. It wasn't even fair. SMU, I'm sorry, they let Clemson walk right down the field and score, and they looked like they were outgunned in that game. They had just found a way to come back. Replacements, I know Kevin would kill me if I said his tied, because he doesn't think they deserve to be in. I thought they were an entertaining team. But if you want my honest opinion, this isn't even fan bias with the Ed Reed jersey behind me. In the ACC, why not? You got to put Clemson in because they won it off technicality. Why not put Miami in? Best quarterback in the country. Even if they get knocked out in the first round, he'll make it entertaining. And then the second one was the best upstart young quarterback in the country, Lenore Sellers in South Carolina. They were fun. They had a lot of good young upstart players, two elite young pass rushers. At least it's more of a game to watch. I get why South Carolina was passed up. I feel like Miami could have interchanged either of those. Honestly, I would have put Alabama in over one or two of those, but that's just personal preference on the best teams getting in. And I don't think Indiana was one of the top 12 best teams. That's just flat out. SMU's borderline to me.
Yeah. Kev, your thoughts on the 12 teams that made it in? Did they get it right, or did they leave somebody out?
I think fundamentally, and I talked about this a second ago, the 12-team playoff is flawed. There are not 12 teams that can compete for a national championship every year. There are barely 3, but again, we needed the 8 teams. We needed the expansion to give these teams a chance, which Ohio State and Notre Dame are showing us they deserved it. But for what they were given, yes, I do think these were the 12 teams that should be in. Tim Tebow a couple years ago said, are you looking at best or most deserving? I think we got a combination of both. I think as a personal belief, a 3-loss team should not be competing for a national championship. If you want to compete to win a national championship, you should not be losing to 6-6 Oklahoma. You should not be losing to 6-6 Vanderbilt. And that's mostly Alabama talking. They should not have lost those games if they even wanted to make the playoffs. And then a lot of these teams, though, showed that they shouldn't have been in this playoffs. In bowl season, they did not perform to the level they should have for a team who was saying how they should be in these playoffs. And then I don't think there are any other suitable alternatives. Indiana, yes, they haven't played many great teams. They went 11-1. They should be in. They did go through the Big Ten going 11-1. Miami, don't lose to Syracuse. I think these late season games still need to matter. Conference championships need to matter. And I'm sick of the hypothetical game. This is mostly coming from the SEC. I'm sick of it. It's stupid. You didn't win the games when they mattered. You cannot now say, well, we would be winning these games when we couldn't beat the teams in front of us a week ago. So I think, all in all, the 12 teams that they put in are the best they could give us.
I thought Miami was the one team that didn't get in that had the most argument to be in, but Clemson ruined that for them by winning the ACC championship, because I thought Miami was a better team than Clemson. But you got to win the games when you got the games to play. The argument about Indiana is, their schedule was super weak, but they got really fortunate this year in the conference schedule, and they're not going to have that luck every single year. And, my dad always says you got to play the games that are on the schedule. And when it comes to the conference, you don't have a whole lot of say in that at all. And then I look at Notre Dame kind of in the same thing. Well, Notre Dame didn't run through a conference. They didn't win really one big game, maybe two. Now they've showed up in the playoffs. They've done their part, of course. But I feel like Indiana and Notre Dame's resume was pretty similar. I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
See, I would say the only thing that Notre Dame separates is they do have a decent win. As much as they are kind of a mediocre team, they still beat Texas A&M. Yeah. They still beat Army. They still beat Navy, who honestly were better teams than half of the teams that are on Indiana's schedule. I mean, obviously hindsight, because now they've propelled themselves into the championship, but when they beat Army and they beat them handily, I was like, okay, this Notre Dame team actually is maybe not a joke. They actually might have something there. So that was my honest to God opinion on it. I think that's what separates them, because I think besides Ohio State, I can't even name this side. The hardest game was what? Minnesota, Indiana? Somewhere in that range?
For Ohio or Indiana?
For Indiana, yeah.
Michigan State?
Yeah, that's not impressive to me.
Right.
I'm being honest.
Yeah, but at the same time, Indiana performed in a way that most of us did not see coming. And I like what you said, Kev, about that. Hey, they are 11-1 at the end of the day, and we'll see how coaches start to schedule and AD start to schedule games moving forward, especially those non-conference games. Why, you might see less. I don't know. There's a lot of money in those big games, though. So I think it's more talk than anything.
And in Indiana's defense, they beat Michigan, something Ohio State, playing for a national champion, and Alabama, the hypothetical national champion, couldn't do. So I think we need to give them some credit for that.
I'm all for it. All right. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to break down Notre Dame a little bit more. But first, a word from Righteous Felon Jerky.
Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at righteousfelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon Jerky.
A lot has changed in South Bend, Indiana since 3 years ago when Brian Kelly announced his shocking departure. Taking over for Brian Kelly was none other than Ohio State alum Marcus Freeman. Since taking over, Freeman has reinvigorated and inspired this Notre Dame football team. Unfortunately, it hasn't been all sunshine and daisies for the Fighting Irish. But after an early season disappointment in Northern Illinois, the Golden Domers have dominated their opponents, only failing to win by double digits in 2 of their final 13 games of the season. Quarterback Riley Leonard has been the brightest spot for this Irish offense. He and the rest of this Notre Dame offense look to take down the Ohio State Buckeyes. The question is, will Notre Dame be able to play like a champion?
So Notre Dame is back in the promised land, so to say, and I know I have some Notre Dame friends, and they are incredibly excited about it. But I always look at Notre Dame, and the first thing I think when I think of Notre Dame is they're an independent. They don't have to go through the schedule that some of the SEC teams do, the Big Ten teams do, and even the ACC teams at times have to go through. And yet they are still sitting here. Is Notre Dame I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on Notre Dame being eligible for the playoffs, which I know they have to be, and their lack of conference? Is it fair to put them in the same category as the teams that are going through some of these other conference schedules? Kev, we'll start with you this time.
I think Notre Dame, from a financial standpoint, being out of conference or not in a conference is genius. They have NBC paying them all the money. They don't have to share it. They're getting $20 million for making the national championship, something Ohio State is also getting, but a cut of it that is shared with the Big Ten. So I think from that standpoint, it's very smart. I think from an on-the-field aspect, it can work out because they can make their schedule however they want, but the problem will then become if they lose a game or two, they're not necessarily going to get the benefit of the doubt that some of these conference teams will. Because let's say Ohio State, they lose two conference games they shouldn't have. And then you look at Notre Dame, they lose two games they shouldn't have. Ohio State will get the benefit of the doubt because you can go, well, that's a conference schedule. They couldn't do anything. With Notre Dame, you go, well, you picked these teams, so you really should have been sure you were going to beat them. And then on top of that, they can't get the first round bye, which I'm fine with in that aspect as well. Join a conference, win it to get the rewards.
Jared, your thoughts on the independent Notre Dame?
Well, Kev made two very good points there. My thing was, I honestly, as somebody who has to play them on and off in conferences and other sports in the ACC as an ACC fan, it always kind of irked me a little bit. But now, one with the financial advantage, also with the fact, choosing your own schedule always is there. I think this playoff, they've kind of proved they have just as much swing power as anybody else. They'll line up just like any other D1 football team and take you on. Now, Monday is going to be the deciding factor. But Georgia, Penn State, Indiana, they handled business. So as a Miami fan, always there's animosity towards Notre Dame. But I can't even get mad because they've answered the bell for every single challenge. So obviously from the independent standpoint of what Kevin brought up, yes, you can kind of split hairs there, especially when it comes to losing a game or two more and comparing it to somebody who lost in conference. But competitiveness in the way they play, they've risen to the occasion and honestly have done everything they're supposed to do. This is the best case scenario for Notre Dame to make the case for why independents are just as good if they play correctly as teams in conference.
Well, we brought up, 2 losses would be tough for Notre Dame. Fortunately for them, they didn't have 2 losses, but their one loss came in week 2 of the season against Northern Illinois in a 16-14 showdown. And I know on my show, all we talked about was, well, Notre Dame's done for. Freeman's probably in trouble. Those kinds of things. How in the world can you lose to Northern Illinois? And then they turned things around. Granted, schedule was relatively easy, but they turned things around, and now they're sitting in the championship game. So, Jared, when you look at that early season loss to Northern Illinois, what was your reaction then, and how do you feel about how the team has done since that moment?
Honestly, it's kind of similar to yours. I was sitting on a beach on vacation when they lost that game too. Watching, I believe it was. No, actually, no. I was still at the house. But anyway, I was actually at the gym watching that one on the little TVs and stuff. And mid-set, look up and I see final 16-14. I'm like, well, texted the group chat for all the corner booth and all of our friends, and I said, Notre Dame's done. That's nice. Little did I know, but listen, they've rallied. And they lost it at the perfect time. Kev said late season games matter. Losing an early one is kind of easier to overcome. And they did. They rallied the troops and they got themselves going. You can't hate them for it.
Kev, do you remember your reaction to the loss when it comes to Northern Illinois and kind of your thoughts about the turnaround that they've had?
My thoughts when they first lost was, well, they're done. That should disqualify you from playing for a national championship. Forgetting that even before the expanded playoffs, we've had national champions go with bad losses. 2008 Florida lost to Virginia Tech. You had 2012 Alabama losing to some bottom tier bad school. Number 15 A&M, but it was at home. That's a tough loss. Number 2014 Ohio State, they lost to Virginia Tech unranked at home. 2015 Alabama lost an ugly game to Ole Miss. 2016 Clemson lost to unranked Pitt at home. Now, those are all Power 5 opponents, but they were not games you can lose and expect to win a national championship until you do. So it really matters how you respond to those, and Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame have done a phenomenal job of putting that in the rear view, so to speak, but keeping it on their minds of, hey, we cannot play like that again and expect to go where we want to. So the turnaround has been phenomenal.
It has indeed. And a lot of it comes down to Marcus Freeman and the job that he's done there as the head coach. You mentioned earlier, Brian Kelly. To me, Notre Dame is a lot harder to hate with Brian Kelly gone and Marcus Freeman as the coach than they were when Brian Kelly was there. But Marcus Freeman, not only did he secure his job at Notre Dame, he got himself some opportunities outside of Notre Dame also with the job that he's done. What are your thoughts on Marcus Freeman, and have they changed from last year or early season to what you think about Marcus Freeman right now?
I've always kind of thought in college, and it's changed a little bit with transport, you have to give a guy 3 or 4 years, get a full recruiting class in place. And I think it's shown he's getting the most out of the Brian Kelly players still there. He is also bringing in new difference makers in the game. A big part of it, though, is he's a culture guy. There's a story going around, not sure how true it is, but the players went to the athletic director and said, hey, we have a culture here. Don't bring someone in who's going to mess it up. And they were ecstatic when they found out Marcus Freeman was going to be the head coach. He's getting the most out of his guys. He is making them feel like they belong at a place. And I think that's the most important in college football. If you can create a culture where guys feel like they belong, where guys are happy, especially in the portal era, you will have success for as long as you're coaching.
Jared?
I fully agree. Honestly, when I hired Marcus Freeman, anything's an upgrade over I almost said Chip Kelly. Everything's an upgrade over Brian Kelly. I don't know what his deal is. Everywhere he goes, he just makes wherever he coaches more hateable. But ask my 2 LSU co-hosts; they'll tell you the same thing. My biggest thing with Marcus Freeman, though, is like Kevin said, culture is huge, and this doesn't look like your Notre Dame that I grew up with. So rigid, almost like elitist private school feeling. Nah, this feels like there's an energy. Like they belong with these teams now. It's not like kind of like this sideshow of, play like a champion. We're a historical team. It's like, no, now you're a real football team again. Like this is real. So that was kind of the vibe I guess Marcus Freeman gives. Like there's a lot more respect earned, not just assumed because of what their name is. So I'm a fan. I genuinely, even as somebody who is supposed to hate Notre Dame, if the jersey behind me didn't tell you, I genuinely have a lot of respect for Marcus Freeman and what he's done with this program.
One of my good friends, he's a Notre Dame fan, a Dallas Cowboy fan. I was reaching out to him about the Dallas Cowboy open job, and he said, I just want everybody to leave Marcus Freeman alone and let him stay at Notre Dame. Loves him there as the head coach, and he definitely has built, like you said, a ton of respect for that program from people who are not Notre Dame fans, to be able to look in and go, yeah, I can't dislike that guy. At least that's my thoughts on it. There as well. In a few minutes, we'll come back and look at the keys to victory for Notre Dame. But for now, we'll wrap up the Notre Dame conversation. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll look at Ohio State and that Chip Kelly that you just mentioned. We'll actually probably talk about him a little bit too. But first, a quick word from Canada Dips.
Hey guys, this is Hector from the Insert Name FC podcast here to tell you guys about Canada Dips. It is a great tasting, superior alternative to traditional dip using CBD in a way that is radical, enjoyable, and effective. It comes in 5 core flavors: wintergreen, mint, citrus, mango, and American spice. Canada Dip CBD is the new evolution in dip, allowing guys to enjoy great, long-lasting taste without the downsides. If you guys want to go ahead and try them out, use the code BELLYUP20 at CanadaDipCBD.com. Once again, BELLYUP20 at CanadaDipCBD.com, and you'll get yourself 20% off your purchase. Thank you again for Canada Dips for being a great partner of Belly Up Sports.
Meanwhile, at the Ohio State University, it's been a surprisingly uncomfortable season for head coach Ryan Day as Ohio State gets ready for another national championship game. The head coach has received his fair share of criticism for his interference with play calling and how the Buckeyes handled the team from up north in the game. Despite all of that, Ryan Day has this team in another national championship game. Leading the way for the Buckeyes is their terrifying defense. Number 1 in the nations in defensive yards per game, as well as posting the best pass defense and a top 5 rush defense. But it's the offensive side that's looking to send a message. Offensive coordinator Chip Kelly is spoiled for choices, with Will Howard playing some of his best football, receiving core any coach would be jealous of, and a running back stable that's ready to break one off at any given time. This offense is ready for any fight. The Buckeyes' confidence should be sky high, as they are 6-0 in the last 6 tries versus Notre Dame, with Notre Dame's last win coming pre-World War II. The question is, can this Ohio State team take the next step and win the big one under head coach Ryan?
Well, we just spent time talking about Marcus Freeman, so let's start with Ryan Day, because coming into the season, Ohio State was looked at as one of the better teams in the nation, and Ryan Day, though, was kind of on the hot seat all along. Well, not maybe from the university, but from the fan base. And so my question is with Ryan Day sitting in the national championship, has he proved his worth? And are Ohio State fans willing to say, yeah, this is definitely our guy for the years to come? Jared.
I wouldn't push it that far, because Ohio State are maybe their fans are maybe the most unhinged in college football. They make my fan base, Kevin's fan base, even our good friend Kelsey's fan base look sane. They tried to patent the guys. Come on. But I will say he's bought himself some time. I think this is the best response possible. And it's so funny. Back when the playoffs started, I heard a lot of Ohio State fans saying, worst case scenario, watch, he goes out and wins a title and secures his job. I'm like, what do you mean? Wouldn't you want to win a national title? I don't understand their logic there. I get it, because this may be a flash in a pan, maybe a one-time thing like the 2014 team was, but why not give it a swing? You want to give it a national title is a national title. Look at the banner behind Kevin's head. Kev, I'm counting at least 20-something there behind you?
17.
Yeah, close enough. Anyway, it's 3 rows. All right, it's a lot. I can only count how many Miami has on one hand.
I thought there was a 4th. Yeah, that's fair.
I can only count how many my team has on one hand. So it's 6 if you count a questionable call against the Ohio State University. Anyway, it's a weird saying Days saved his job. Yes, for a season, because it's Ohio State. They'll find a way to hate this man. They'll be calling for Chip Kelly to take over as head coach by the end of next year if he starts off rough. That's just my honest to God opinion. So,
yeah, Kev, you cheer for a team that had Nick Saban for ages and saw that consistency really pay off. But obviously, Saban was winning championships and all those sorts of things too. When you look at Ryan Day at Ohio State, do you feel like you said, we got to give him 3 to 4 years. Do you feel like Day has done enough to prove that, hey, he's a guy that's legit there for Ohio State and should be there for years to come?
No. No, I think Ohio State fans are right in saying the worst thing that could happen to this school is Ryan Day winning a national championship and being their coach for the next 10 years. I don't see it happening again. And that's another 10 years of not beating Michigan. Bear Bryant once said, who's won a couple, sure, I'd like to beat Notre Dame, don't get me wrong, but nothing matters more than beating that Cow College on the other side of the state. When the expectation is winning national championships, you also need to beat your rival. For some of these other teams, for Notre Dame, for Jared, no offense, Miami, that these years that it's been a while since they've won a national championship, that is the goal. But if you do that and cannot beat your rival, your seat's only going to get hotter however long you do it. Now, if you go on and win the national championship every year after not beating your rival, yeah, people probably won't care as much, but there are plenty who will. Also, quick correction, it's actually 18. I always forget the 2020 year. I drank my brain into oblivion.
I sit here and I look at it at Ohio State. And I think the best thing that happened to him this year was losing to Michigan. And I know the fan base will not agree with me, and I understand that. But again, they didn't have to play in their conference championship because they lost to Michigan. They didn't have to risk losing that game. Then they go out and they have made a miraculous run through the playoff. I mean, they have been so dominant throughout the playoffs to this point. Again, my mom's from Ohio. She's an Ohio State fan. I get it, but losing to them seemed to kick something into gear for Ohio State. And I'm not sure, that this run would have been the same had they beat Michigan. But again, you can't judge how much, those kinds of things work. I don't know. That's the way I look at it, Kev, is that Michigan loss is actually the reason why they're sitting where they're sitting today.
They won't see it that way. They won't care.
No. We can all blame Michigan for this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ohio State's got obviously stars at almost every level, but not only do they have stars, they have freshmen who are, I listen to the draft talk. I mean, number one receiver in the draft this year, if he were able to come out, and he's not. Plus, they've got veteran guys as well. What do you make of this, the amount of young talent? And we'll get to Howard in just a second, but the young talent start there, Jared, that Ohio State has on the field.
Well, when you're referring to freshmen, there's only really one freshman you have to talk about.
Yeah.
That's the man who butchered Oregon in the first half. Jeremiah Smith is something else. When he was getting recruited, and obviously one of the schools was mine that was going against Ohio State for it. And I'm like, oh, he's just a freshman. What is he going to do? Little did I know I'm going to watch this kid absolutely blow my mind. Him and Ryan Williams down in Alabama, we were blessed this year watching two incredible freshman wide receivers. But Jeremiah Smith is, I believe, 6'3", at least, I think 215 as a freshman, runs a sub 4.4. Ridiculous vertical, incredible hands. And that's just all untapped stuff. That's literally God-given. Just wait until he learns how to run routes like JSN or Chris Olave. Because Ohio State produces good receivers. How have you checked the last couple NFL drafts? So think about what he could be in 2-3 years is incredible. But I don't think there's many college corners in the country who can cover him right now, which is unreal. So it makes Will Howard's job a hell of a lot easier. But as much as I would love to talk about the freshman, he's going to get a lot of attention. And, obviously we can talk about Cornell Tate, or we can even talk about the senior Emeka Buka. I do not want to mispronounce his name. It killed me because I did it once. But the big key to me is the fact that you have two Heisman candidate level running backs.
Yeah. Most
teams don't have one. But you bring Trevion Henderson and Keyshawn Junkins into the same backfield. And it's what beat Texas, kept them off the field. They didn't have to outthrow everybody. They just learned his hand off the two talented running backs. And it's an incredible thing. Ohio State has so many weapons. Will Howard, it's like any direction he looks, there's somebody who can make a play. It's incredible.
Kev, Jeremiah Smith goes for over 1,200 yards, 14 touchdowns as a freshman. You have seen a fair amount of amazing receivers come through the team you cheer for in Alabama. I mean, obviously Ohio State's been stacking receivers for a while now too, but this Jeremiah Smith is something special.
It is terrifying. Jared did bring up his height and weight, how good he is already as a freshman. And a big commentary on how, well, the NFL or the NBA lets guys come in after a year. Why doesn't the NFL? And the general response is because they're 18, 19, they will get murdered by a 32-year-old man. That's just how it works. Jeremiah Smith could probably step onto an NFL field tomorrow and put up a crisp 123 and a touchdown. Simple as that. He's built for these big moments. He's size-wise, also skill-wise. He is terrifying. I think it's hilarious that he would be the number one pick this year, or the number one receiver this year, the number one receiver next year. And the year after that, it's a debate because Ryan Williams is also 17. So it's terrifying. But no, and Jared bringing up the rest of those skill position players at Ohio State. It's Will Howard's giving me a less good, not less good. That's not good English. A less well-rounded in college Mac Jones, because Mac Jones, when he was at Alabama, just had to drop back, oh, here you go, Devontae. Here you go, Jalen. Cool. Oh, they're somehow double teaming all of them. All right, Najee, here you go. Go run for 20 yards. That's what Will Howard has to do. Oh, is Emeka open? Oh, is Jeremiah open? Oh, they're both doubled. All right, let's hit the tight end. Let's hit Judkins or Travion in the flats. It's really easy. He basically has to do 3 reads every play, and he can find success with that.
And that's perfect. You guys have both brought it up. Will Howard is a guy that I have all season long been like, I don't trust Will Howard. I don't trust Will Howard. And then he's sitting in the championship game. But again, it's kind of like he can just throw the ball up and someone's going to get it. But should I respect Will Howard more than I do, Kev?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think so. I think all 3 of us could be successful in that offense. If push came to shove, we were Ohio State students. He goes down to Brian. He's like, shoot, we need a quarterback. You get out there. Yeah, it'd be really, really easy.
I will admit he's played better. He's played better. That I will give him credit for, but his rating versus top 25 is only about a 166, 76% completion percentage. It's not anything to write home about as a college player. I mean, his stats against Oregon were broken, but then again, Oregon just basically quit 3 drives in. So, and I got lectured by a certain producer of ours about why this was more about Will Howard dominating more than Oregon rolling over. But I will give him the credit. He has stepped up and not screwed up. That's the best way to word it. He was told, he said, hey, here's an armored Lambo. Don't break it. He hasn't yet. So,
yeah, I mean, if he can survive without turning the ball over, and he's done pretty well at that this season. Only 10 interceptions, I believe. Yeah, 10 interceptions. That's going to work for what they're doing at Ohio State, and Chip Kelly leading the way. What was the hire of Chip Kelly? What did that do for Ohio State this year?
Well, I mean, as somebody who had to experience Chip Kelly in their professional team, there's a little animosity, at least in my area. But I will tell you straight up, he is one of the best offensive coaches I've ever seen. Those 2010 through 2014 Oregon teams were unreal. 2010 through 2013, whenever he worked up there. So much that, like, I had my coach from high school go to one of his training seminars to rip off his offense. That's how much his thing. He was the originator of the fast spread offense, read option, zone read, RPOs, made Marcus Mariota a household name overnight, and went to was a couple bad plays away from beating Cam Newton and Nick Fairley in that Auburn team. So what to me is incredible is that you get that with a zillion different grade A weapons and a quarterback who's mobile and just says, hey, make the right read and get rid of the ball. And it's a successful offense. That's what makes college football beautiful.
Kev, thoughts on Chip Kelly's impact at Ohio State?
I think he is the engine that is making Ohio State go this year. Ryan Day is an offensive guy. He was a wide receivers coach, quarterbacks coach, offensive coordinator. By having another competent offensive play caller around who has been a head coach, Ryan Day could take a step back from the offense, focus on the bigger picture a little bit more, and then proceed to not mess it up as much.
I like it. Well, there's more than just people winning and losing on the field. They're winning and losing on their phone apps financially as well. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to hear from DJ from Belly Up Bets to get some picks for the game going on Monday night. But first, a quick word from our friends over at SeatGeek.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required to talk to you about one of our newest partners at Belly Up Sports, SeatGeek. Yeah, live sports is great on television, but the feeling of being at the arena is a priceless experience. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are there to help you find the best tickets at the best prices. Not only can you get tickets to sporting events, but you can also get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, musicals, and more. Search for your desired event now at SeatGeek.com, enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets.
And welcome everybody to Belly Up Bets here. It is DJ from the High Low Sports Podcast. Today for the College Football National Championship game, we'll be looking at a few different bets that could win us some money. Once again, nothing is guaranteed, but we're going to do our best to make the odds forever in our favor. Unlike some of the other sports, especially championship sports, where you want to maybe throw in some player props, we don't really have that option for most sports books in college football. So we'll have to get a little creative in some cases, but other ones we'll have to get even less creative. But let's go and break open the sports book. Right here, as you can see, some of the starting odds. Obviously, each book has different odds, wagers, at different things like that. We're going to go and start with one of my favorite ones so far for this college football playoff. We're going to go down here to Ohio State first quarter spread -2.5. We're going to add that on. -115. Ohio State comes out of the gate like gangbusters. Saw it against Tennessee. We even saw it last week against Texas in a close game. We saw it especially against Oregon. My goodness, did they boat race them right out of the way. So -2.5 first quarter spread. They can win the first quarter 3-0, and this will cover. And I think it'll be more along the lines of 7-3. I think their defense is good enough to hold Notre Dame from going off. And all they have to do is get in the end zone once, and that puts them in a good spot. Jeremiah Smith just has to have one he out there somewhere play, which if I'm Ryan Day, that's the first play of the game is I'm chucking a bomb to Smith. But that's neither here nor there. Next bet we're going to look at is everything I just said. We're going to slow that down the rest of the way. I like the under at -45.5, at -110. I don't think it's going to be a very high scoring affair. You can even see the numbers right now changing in real time. Different books will have different numbers. I think we're looking more at a little bit of a closer scoring game here. I don't think it's going to be a high flying back and forth. I think it's going to be relatively controlled for the most part. And I think it's going to be in the realms of 27-18, something like that. So we're going to be looking at about 40 to 42-ish total points. So I think in this particular case, it's going to be really, really close. 45.5 is close. I don't love the over because I think both defenses are outstanding, and Notre Dame's offense can get really slow paced sometimes. We saw it against Georgia especially. It can move quickly, but more often than not, it's a slow-paced offense. And last but not least, this one's probably going to give away who I think is the winners. We did see the odds change basically in real time. We got Ohio State -8.5. I think they will find a way to cover that, even with it being a lower scoring game. Top to bottom, I've said it on our show and throughout the season, I think Ohio State has the best roster in college football. So we're going to go and say they find a way to cover -8.5, which means I will have the Buckeyes hoisting the trophy this season as the national championship. So if you parlayed all three of these together, you'd be looking at about +440 odds. If you are that type of guy, I wouldn't always recommend parlaying if you can't bet each one individually. But for me, I got the Buckeyes winning this one. I do like that final score of about 27-17, 27-18-ish. So it's going to get real close to that over-under. I think it's just going to hit the under. So I'll take the Buckeyes, 27-18. These are the three bets we are looking at for best bets. Obviously, as you can see right now, between now and game time, there's going to be a little bit of change and a little bit of movement. So definitely, if you find one that you like, don't be afraid to place it right now. You can always change it later or add another one. But that's what we have for Belly Up Bets today. It is DJ from the High Low Sports Podcast. We will send it over to Vince and the boys.
Well, thanks, DJ. Appreciate that coverage, and make sure you pick smart this weekend for sure. There's a lot of sports going on, so make sure you save some of that budget for Monday night as well. Here we get into the keys of the game for each team to win. We're going to start off with Notre Dame, and Jared, give us your keys to victory for Notre Dame.
All righty, we're going to get it started. My keys to victory. Number one, run the damn ball. Make it easy for Riley Leonard. There's no reason to try to get in a shootout with Ohio State. Play clock control. Allow Riley Leonard to make easy throws. Oh, look, that's my next point. Next point. Use Riley Leonard to his strengths. He's a mobile quarterback. He can make smart reads. He had a decent season this year, but he's not a Heisman-winning quarterback. Play smart. Run the football. Utilize Riley Leonard to his strengths. And last but not least, force Will Howard to beat you. Don't miss easy tackles. Make him make throws downfield. There's no reason to allow him to have the easy checkdowns where his guys can make explosive plays. Make him make the hard throws to execute on third down and long. And that is how you're going to keep them either kicking field goals or forcing a punt. That's all. That's how you win.
I understand. Kev, your keys to the game for Notre Dame, same, different?
Just a little bit same, a little bit different. One, they need to keep it close. Notre Dame has a really good defense, and they love to run the ball. They have 44 rushing touchdowns this season compared to their 19 passing. If it starts becoming a shootout, oh, buddy, you are not keeping up with Ohio State. If they can keep it close, they have a chance. My second point, Jared already mentioned it, make Will Howard beat you, not his receivers. If you can make it uncomfortable for him in the pocket while slowing down, I do not think you can fully stop Emeka Ibuka and Jeremiah Smith. Slow them down, try to limit the running game's effectiveness. You might give up a long run, but if you can make it where Travion Henderson and Keyshawn Judkins are running into a brick wall all night, you will force them to pass more, force Will Howard to make more decisions, which could be Ohio State's downfall. And finally, my third point, regardless of all these points, you do not have Brian Kelly as your head coach, so you have a chance to win.
Oh,
he's not wrong.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong at all. All right, let's get into Ohio State. Keys to victory for Ohio State. And Jared, we'll let you go first again. What you think Ohio State has to do to get the win this week?
All right, Ohio State. Oh, this one's easy. Get the ball to your playmakers in space. We mentioned all their talented weapons. Well, hey, Henderson, Junkins, Jeremiah Smith, Ibuka, hell, Cardell Tate. Just get the ball out in space. Get the ball out quick. There's no need to be a hero, Will Howard. Just get rid of it quick. Second, keep Will Howard's throws simple and easy. There's no reason to have to throw a 40-yard seam route into double coverage. Slant, passes, play action, go routes, screens, hand the ball off. It should not be that hard. Run like a high school offense if you have to. Allow the ball to be moved by the playmakers, not by the orchestrator. Last but not least, pressure. Get pressure on Riley Leonard. Right now, Ohio State's averaging 6 sacks a game in the college football playoff. That was also very skewed by their 8 against Oregon. But 4-4 against Texas and Tennessee is not anything to shake a stick at either. Jack Sawyer has had this defense rumbling the past couple weeks. It's up to him and Caleb Downs and the rest of that very vaunted defense to keep playing the way they've been playing and pressure Riley Leonard to have to beat them. If they can take the running game away, it's going to be a very simple game of cat and mouse against Riley Leonard trying to beat you over the top.
All right, Kev, your keys to the game, keys to victory for Ohio State.
Put your foot on the gas like you're playing for Georgia. You got to hit the field hard. You got to get going fast. You cannot look back regardless of what or who is in your way. If you make this a track meet, you are going to lap Notre Dame. Do not let them get you. Do not let them bog you down in the backfield. Negative plays. Limit those. Get the ball out quick to your fast skill players and just watch the magic happen. And that goes into my second point. Jared already mentioned it. Scheme easy throws for Will Howard. This is the national championship. It is not the time to get cute with your play calling. Drags, curls, play action. Maybe mix in an easy read RPO if you're feeling a little frisky while you're up 2 scores. But don't open the game up with a bomb down the seam into double coverage, as Jared put it. Just keep it simple, stupid for the first half. See how it goes with that way. And then if you have to try and get cute because you're down, get cute. But start out simple but fast. And don't day it up. Don't mess up. It's really that simple. You really should be winning this game. And you also should have beaten Michigan for the last 4 years. Maybe not last year, but don't mess it up. I don't care if you have to hog tie him in the locker room at halftime and have Chip Kelly or someone else. Let Jeremiah Smith coach the team if Ryan Day starts doing Ryan Day things. Just do not day it up.
Oh my goodness. All right. Yeah, I can imagine that Urban Meyer will be sitting somewhere in a suite and they're going to give him the reins at halftime if they need to as well. But all right, let's get to our picks because we've talked about the keys to victory. We've talked about what these teams have to do, but now we've got to put our money where our mouth is. And so let's run through our picks. I'll start off here since my name is first on the list. I've got Ohio State 30-24. This is kind of wishful thinking as far as desiring a close game. I was going to originally put in like 34-17. I thought, no, championship game, it's got to be closer. So I'm going to go Ohio State winning by a little bit more than or a little less than a touchdown. I'll go 30-24. Jared, explain your pick.
Well, so Vince, you did say it was going to be closer because it's a championship game. The last two national championship games have not been close, courtesy of the Georgia Bulldogs and Michigan Wolverines. I will say this, though. The reason I picked Notre Dame to win 31-27 is because of Kevin's point. I have a feeling we're going to get a little Ryan Day episode at some point in the third or fourth quarter. Either he's going to have Will Howard do something ridiculous for no reason, or he'll say the wrong thing to him on the sideline, and we get a momentum shift. And if Notre Dame can just get up by 4 and make them have to score to win, I score a touchdown to win. I think it's very possible they could get up, get the ball running, and just kill enough clock where Notre Dame's going to have to, where they're going to force Ohio State to make a bad move. And that's it. If they can get up, even if it's by 4 points, and make Will Howard win. And like I said, keep him from making the bad decisions. So I think he's made the first national championship game where the keys to both victory are keep the game out of both quarterbacks' hands. Wild to me. Absolutely wild.
All right, Kevin, you go on a little lower score than other people, but you got Notre Dame on top. What's your reasoning behind your pick?
I said keep it close. I think Notre Dame will get the ground game going. That's not knocking Ohio State's defense. I think they will, as Jared said, keep momentum, slow the game down. And I think they know that they cannot single coverage any player on Ohio State. So I think they'll probably do some disguise coverages, try to confuse Will Howard. As they're trying to make those easy plays for him, they will try to confuse him, get some key turnovers. And Marcus Freeman, we talked about him being a culture guy. He has his team going into this game ready to go, ready to hit Ohio State in the mouth and expecting to win. I think that defense and that run game is going to cause fits for Ohio State, and it will slow the game down enough to get this low-scoring affair where Notre Dame pulls out the win.
All right, you heard DJ from Belly Up Bets earlier. 27-18 Ohio State on top is what he predicts. Hector from Insert Name FC, he's 30-27 Ohio State. And then we polled all of the folks over at Belly Up Sports. 80% of the votes went to Ohio State to win. And listen, I've listened to the shows on Belly Up Sports. We're a part of the Belly Up Sports Network. If 80% of them said Ohio State, then you can put your money on Notre Dame. And no, I'm just kidding.
Already
Yep. You guys are already there for sure, which is awesome. So there you go. Game coming up Monday night. It's going to be a blast. And I've enjoyed this conversation. We've had a good time talking college football championships. Hard to believe that all of our focus has to turn to the NFL draft, basically, for college football fans, just starting this week. So that'll be a fun time for sure. But guys, I appreciate you coming on and joining me for this. Let's talk about your shows a little bit. Jared, you want to start off with where people can hear you, see you, and find you here in the days to come?
The Cornerback Podcast. We are available on all platforms: YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, etc. X. We are going live, obviously, on social media on Monday, I believe around 6:30. The show will then be released on YouTube the following day. Our Thursday show is all live all the time. It's a little more entertaining, a little more loose. You got guys like Kelsey, Kev, DJ, and the rest of the merry band all coming through, cracking a couple beers, a little less serious, a little more fun. Where I will probably make a joke how Wisconsin is now trying to say that there's tampering with Miami's latest signing. So that'll be usually my topic of discussion for tomorrow as I rope on Wisconsin for a few things. Anyway, Cornerback Podcast on all social media and media platforms. It was great being on, Vince. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. And Kev, you talk a lot of college football. Talk about your show, where people can find you at.
You can find our show, Tailgate in the Quad, at Quad Tailgate on all platforms. We're taking a little break coming up after the season so I can get married. But then we're going to come back a little later on with our YouTube channel. That's Tailgate in the Quad. You can find it there. You can also find it in our bios on social media. You can also follow me at BellyUpKev. I tweet a lot of random nonsense, but it's sometimes funny. So,
all right, Kev over at the tailgate on the Quad. I'm a little offended that you didn't ask me to do a virtual wedding for you as a licensed minister. I figured I could have married you via the internet, but that's all right. Well, I'll get over it very soon. I'm Vince Stover. I'm the Sports Stove podcast. And me and my dad get together once a week, and we talk all things football, the Sports Stove Football Show. And then every weekend, myself and Kevin Wilson are on the Belly Up Fantasy Live Baseball Show. Just started up last week, and episode 2 drops tonight as you're watching this on Sunday. And so if you're into baseball, listen, we talk fantasy baseball. We also talk Major League Baseball news and all of that as well. You can find us on the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel for all of those shows. And of course, you can always find great sports content on bellyupsports.com, as well as many shows on the Belly Up Sports Network, all available, and you can see them all on the bellyupsports.com website. I want to thank again Jared and Kev for joining me tonight. Thank all of you for tuning in and listening, and enjoy the football game on Monday. And when you're done, tune into Belly Up Sports Network to enjoy all the recap and talk about how the game went. Appreciate you tuning in tonight, and enjoy the game on Monday.